we are going to meet somebody who calls herself the accidental blogger, and I want to know a little something about that. So I want you to help me to invite. Don't laugh. I'm trying to get my intro.
Sorry. I am the accidental blogger.
Yes. I would love for you to help me to welcome Miss Lori Keesey, the accidental blogger.
Well, thank you very much for that awesome welcome. And I'm so happy to meet you too, Dr. Rhonda.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, I'm loving the background. That is so awesome. Are you like on a loft?
Yes, this is my loft. We live in East Tennessee, so
Oh,
we're in a mountainous area. So
nice.
yeah, it's really nice. I like it here. I like it a lot. It's
I'm
good for my mental health.
there you go. There you go. I'm sure you have a beautiful view too.
Yeah, we do. It's a very nice view. Yep.
Lovely.
Chahowie Mountains. There's a gap, and you see the Great Smoky Mountains through the gap. It's kind of nice, I think.
So are you from Tennessee?
No, I'm from the DC area.
Right. I read your bio, and at first I was like, "Oh, she doesn't live far from here." And then I saw it said Tennessee. So what took you to Tennessee? And did you go straight from the DC area to DC, to Tennessee?
Well, I was born in DC, raised in the suburbs of DC. And when I got out of college, I left because I was a newspaper reporter. So I had to get out of the DC market in order to get a job. So moved to Delaware, moved to South Carolina, went back to DC, had the worst job ever, ever,
Mm.
ever, ever, covering coal mining regulations that you can't imagine how boring that could be. And then we raised our kids there, and we ended up moving. It's a less expensive. When we moved here 10 years ago, going on 11 actually, it was traffic was nothing. But Tennessee is one of those fast growing states. So people are moving into the area, and the traffic is it's like, oh my gosh, you sit at a stoplight and you'll go through a cycle, and then it's like, okay, we have more people, we have more cars on the road for sure. But I love it here.
So tell me your story. What is the accidental blogger?
Well, I started blogging 4 years ago, mainly because I needed to develop a platform, which is something writers should do because I was writing a novel and I'm a newbie author. The book was just published,
Mhm.
and I needed to create a platform myself and expose people to who I am and what I do. And what I decided to do was to focus on overcoming adversity,
Mm.
because the novel is called Always Think of Me, and it kind of addresses those issues through the characters, and that's how I became the accidental blogger. So I feature stories about real life people and the hardships they face and what they do to overcome them. I try to make them hopeful. Sometimes though the stories are so bleak, and it gets tough because there's a lot of hardship out there. There's a
Yes.
lot of tragedy, a lot of trauma.
And
And
how do you find the people who you feature on your blogs? Do
well,
you just people?
just people, sometimes I'll put something on social media. Hey, I'm looking for a story idea, but I don't know. People started coming to me as well. And I also write a monthly letter to my followers, my readers, and that's called Something to Chew On. And that isn't necessarily geared to overcoming trauma or adversity. That's just what I feel like talking about. And that's kind of fun. And I think there's going to be some changes to the blog though in the
Okay.
coming months.
What kind of changes?
Well, I think I've been doing this for 4 years, and I think I want to move away from hardship and talk more about extraordinary, ordinary
Okay.
people. People who they're heroes, heroines. You know, they don't have to have some kind of horrible thing happen to them, but they're just these remarkable people that you just want to know. And
Right.
so I think that's where I'm gearing this to. It's also for my own mental health. I've been been covering some issues, and some of these issues are really hard. And it gets to the point like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. So I'm going to change things up a little bit in the coming months.
Wow. Now, how we're starting to really dig deep. Did you think that when you wrote this book that you would maybe be able to affect somebody who might be touched by suicide, who might be touched by mental health in some way?
Well, um, yes. There's another aspect to the novel with a narcissistic personality disorder. So I guess there's the book is chock full of mental health things, you know. Um, and I've known a lot of people who've been involved with a narcissist, and it's a very, 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 very hard thing to go through because of just the personality. And I did so much research, talked to so many mental health people who say that is a very hard thing to heal because that person is never wrong. So you have to admit, I have some responsibility here and want to change in order for change to happen. But if you're never wrong and it's always the other guy's fault, well, you're never going to get well. And in the meantime, you wreak havoc on the lives of others. So there's that aspect to this book too, dealing with a narcissistic personality.
You have a lot of layers in this book.
I well, there's there. I suppose so. I suppose so. And it was so interesting. I'm thank the Lord. My husband is not a narcissist, but I do know them. I do know them.
Now, what's next? Well, before we even get to what's next, you also wrote a couple of short stories, Robert's Prayer and The Note.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, and those are also based on real life things too. Actually, the note is a story that's based on my grandmother, who was raped at the age of 13.
Wow.
And then Robert's Prayer is based on my grandfather, Grandpa Keesey, and the death of my grandfather, whom I never met because he died in 1944. He was in the Baltimore shipyards repairing ships during World War II. Just did to that family. And these are stories that I heard from my grandmother, but they're fascinating to me because those stories became me. That's my heritage. That's part of my story. And again, mental illness. Oh my gosh, I think because my grandmother, she did not handle that death very well at all. In
Mm.
fact, she never recovered. See, these are also things that happen. So that's what those two stories are about. And I'd like to write more. I am writing a sequel right now
Okay.
to Always Think of Me. And in fact, we're going on a trip. We're leaving Sunday and we're driving across the South. We're taking the track that one of the characters would have taken
Oh, that should be
from
interesting.
leaving from Atlanta. So we don't I live 3 hours from Atlanta, and it's like I don't really want to go to Atlanta. Not that Atlanta's horrible, it's just the traffic's so awful. But we have to drive to Atlanta and then go from there. We have to go exactly the way this character would have gone
And
from.
you're blogging the whole way, aren't
I
you?
think I am. I'm going to absolutely post pictures and videos. I'm going to start. We have to take the dog to the kennel on Sunday. So I'm going to start with that because he's our sweetie pie and he's going to be living in the kennel for 3.5 weeks and he's not going to like that too much.
And
But
he's not going to be happy with you when you get back
well,
either.
he probably will not snub us and say, where have you been? He will. I mean, he is yeah, he's kind of passive aggressive that way.
Mm.
He gets really upset. So,
Well,
but
I mean, it sounds like a fun trip, though.
oh,
Now, what's next for you? Besides this really fun trip you have coming up.
well, again, I'm working on the sequel.
Hmm.
And so that's probably going to occupy a bunch of my time. And I think that I'm going to have to scale back on the blogging, writing blog posts because they take a lot of time for me,
Yeah.
because I actually interview folks. So I'm scaling back to one blog post per month. And I still write my monthly letter to the folks who have given me their email addresses and want to hear from me. So, and I know that that's the perfect place to really talk about what we saw and what we did on this massive Lori and Kevin road trip.
Yes, absolutely. Now, for people who are probably getting into this, they want to know how they can follow the blog. How can people find your blog?
Well, they can go to lorikeesey.com.
Okay.
Excuse
And
me.
we
And
have
the
screen
blog, Accidental Blogger is posted there. There's some, you can download, excuse me, the fiction there, and also get links to different places to buy the book. But the book is on Amazon, Books a Million, all those places. So,
Yeah, actually, that was going to be my next question: is where can we find the book? So you already answered that.
yes, all the major online book retailers.